Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio, the NBC network. A new day, new show. A very awesome, interesting topic about mentorship. With me, I have someone that we've been trying to book this show for quite a while now. We finally made it. And you know what? It's going to be worth it. And so without any further ado, I have with me Amrit Singh. He is a high momentum life coach and spiritual seeker. So that's a lot of loaded stuff in there. We're going to break all that down as to the work he does and what is, his mission. And it's going to help us, really maybe twist things, around in our lives and hopefully, just benefit from the discussion today. So without any further ado, Amrit, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Hurricane. Super excited to be on the show.
Well, likewise. Well, so as always, I always start with the concept of, introduction. I mean, I give a brief one, but it's never enough. So Amrit, let's talk about your backstory, your background. And I know you and I, we just briefly chatted that you are located in Mexico, so that's going to be an interesting transition. How do so let's go about that. Well, it will be an interesting, intro here. Go for it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm originally, even if you wouldn't believe it, born and bred in Germany. And so I'm very German at the core. And I realized that, traveling in the world a lot, how German I am. When I'm back in Germany, I'm not German at all because, I've been out the last 25 years. But, living here in Mexico now, or also in my time in India, I realized my deep Germanness. And so that's always a fun one, when I'm showing up for meetings like 5 minutes earlier and everybody else comes a little later. That was a hard lesson I needed to learn in India and in Germany and here in Mexico. But so I grew up in Germany, regular childhood. And then around, my teenage years, and again, unfortunately, regular childhood, I got into alcohol, I got into drugs, I got into partying. And I really realized I was doing that because I was seeking for something. I was seeking for this spiritual connection. And back in the 80s and 90s, there was just not a lot of, you couldn't go on the internet, you couldn't go on spiritual TikTok and get things that explained at the highest level. So I was like, I was getting my spiritual connection from getting high. And that was great, right? In the beginning, like this, oh my God, you're smoking weed. And I got so high and I felt my body and I felt my spirituality. And so I was like, dude, I figured this out. I just have to smoke more weed.
A lot of listeners are going to be happy about that right now.
So I did that for a couple of years. And then I got to a point where I was like, shit, I'm smoking a lot of weed and nothing changed, right? I mean, if you ever smoked a lot of weed, what happens is like, you're happy on the couch, you're happy watching reruns of cartoons and eating your chips and nothing changed. So I looked back like a month, I was exactly the same. Looked back like a year. Oh shit, I was sitting here on the couch smoking weed a year ago. So when a friend of mine introduced me to yoga, I was like, sure, I'll try out this yoga thing. And so I got into it and of course went stoned because it was in the afternoon and we already had like a lot in there. And it was this super profound experience. And then the teacher was like, he kind of caught on to all of us being stoned in the class. And he's like, look, guys, I want to teach you yoga and I want to teach you this deep meditation practice, but you can't come stoned. And so 80% of my friends dropped out of that yoga class right then and there. But I was like, okay, I had a sense there is something in here. And so I made it a point to go back to the next class without smoking weed. And I got this super deep spiritual experience. And I was like, oh my God, I found the Holy Grail. I found the new path in how I can truly connect with my spirituality without having to use substances to get me there, and without having to use that addiction. So from there, it was a bumpy path because I would have these 3-month, 6-month periods, where I would practice yoga really deeply and were completely off. And then I got kind of pulled back in. I was living in Germany, my friends, my old friend group, they were all partying still. And so I had this back and forth for 5 years, and it was super frustrating because, I had this strong period where I would wake up early, eat super healthy, practice yoga, meditate, feel amazing. And then I had these long periods of, going back to smoking, drinking, and nothing happened. And so after 5 years, I was like, okay, I'm done with this. I need to get out of here. I'm moving to India. So that was my big idea, right? I had read autobiography of a yogi and got all these inspirational things. And I was like, India is the solution to all my problems. So I moved to India. And the idea was really to just go for 6 months, maybe a year, have an experience, and then bring that back home and integrate that. But I really liked what I got from India at such a deep level because it kept me clean. It kept me on my path. I was surrounded by people who were practicing yoga, who were meditating. I was living in a country where spiritual practice is really like number one in their priorities as a people. And there was really no drugs, no alcohol around. And so it made it super easy. And so I stayed and I stayed and I stayed and I stayed for 20 years. And I lived in India for 20 years. Ended up working at an international boarding school, teaching a little bit yoga, ended up in the administration there. And then ended up really working with a lot of people one-on-one and helping them and kind of coaching them in the process. And then after 20 years, my wife came to live there with me. We had our children there. We raised them, and we came to a point where we're coming into our 40s, and we're like, my God, if we don't make a change now in our life, we're going to live in India for another 30 years. And we were both clear on that. And we came to that separately, my wife and I, where we're like, okay, we need to step into something new. India was great, but it's time for a change. And so we decided to move back. And then we're like, where are we moving back to? My wife is Mexican. She left Mexico when she was 17. And, I had left Germany with 25. So we didn't really have like a place to move to. And it was like this, hey, we could live anywhere in the world, we could live on Bali, we could live in the States, we could do anything. And we're like, oh man, that's too much. Like let's just go back for the summer to Germany.
Choices, huh?
Yeah, too many choices. And if you ever been to Germany in the summer, Germany is amazing in the summer. All the Germans are in a great mood. You got all the, like it's light till 11 o'clock at night. It's warm during the day. It's a beautiful place to be. Unfortunately, only in the summer. So, like note to all the listeners, if you ever visit Germany or like Berlin, like one of those super happening places in the summer, and you're saying like, oh my God, I love this, I want to move here. First go visit in November or December and then make your final decision. Right? So we ended up staying in Germany, and then COVID hit. And we were locked down in Germany with Germans who take rules seriously. There was no like rules like when you want to walk the dog, only one person can walk the dog because two people could spread COVID to the world or something. I don't know, but it was like in the beginning, you remember like how crazy we all were with not understanding how it all works. And so we ended up on lockdown in Germany for 2 years, and it was rough. It was really, really rough. I had my online job, which I was doing, which I didn't love, but it was paying the rent. And it was all like this whole like, okay, whatever, like we just sit it out. And then sitting it out turned into 2 years of sitting it out. And at some point we got to a place where we're just, hey, we're all unhappy here. The kids are not happy. My wife is Mexican, imagine, not happy in Germany. And I'm like, I'm not really happy here either. And this was actually something when I worked with my coach, when I came to this conclusion where it's like, hey, I really want to just quit my 9 to 5 job, jump full time into my coaching and move to Mexico. And he is like, okay, so why are you not doing that? And I was like, oh shit, why am I not doing it? And I came really down because I'm a little scared, like moving to another country, learning a new language again, finding new friends, by building the social circle. All of this was such a scary thing. And so in my coaching sessions with him, I really got to the point where I was like, that's it. There's really nothing else. So I talked to my wife and she's like, what? You would move to Mexico with me? I would love that. And so really in a matter of 3 months, we, moved out of our apartment, sold our stuff, packed up again, we had already from India just moved with a couple suitcases and a few boxes, and like cut down again and moved to Mexico as a family of 4 with 10 suitcases, which had our whole life in it. And we are like, this is happening. And so we came to Mexico and was really the best decision I've made in my life until that point. And that's where this deep transition started happening, because now things got real, right? I had quit my job. I fully stepped into my identity as a coach. I started to build my business, and it was a slow process. And so going through that and really experiencing all the struggles and all the challenges allowed me to grow in such a profound way and really show up authentically in my life, which was an amazing transition. And so now we live in this beautiful country, here in Valle de Bravo, by a lake, in this beautiful mountain town at 6,000 feet. The people are nice. Everybody has an open heart. The sun shines 350 days a year. We got a little rain for like 4 weeks a year. And it's amazing. We're so blessed, and it was the best decision of my life.
Ooh, all right. So Amrit, there's quite a bit in there that I'd like to break down a little bit. Well, first of all, I want to say this. Congrats on fulfilling your life stuff, because many people sometimes are afraid. And you use the keyword a fear or afraid. And that's, most of us are stuck with that. Like, we don't want to make that leap of faith to just make that transition, because we're so used to comfort. Comfort is cool, right? Everybody is in that comfort zone. I don't want to be uncomfortable. I actually make a statement always, and I say it's time to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And really it is what it is. And for the most part, that's been, a challenge for many, if not a lot of us. And this journey started with you from a long time ago. Now, first of all, you mentioned Germany. I've been to Germany, and I actually love Germany. But yeah, you're right. It was in the summertime, and but I didn't go to Berlin. I went in Munich, so it's one of the best cities I've
amazing
visited.
city.
It's beautiful, clean, nice, historically stuff. And then I've been to Mexico many, many, many times. And you're right. It's beautiful, sunny, alive. People are just cheering, and it's just a different, lifestyle, right? Now, I have not been to India, though I have Indian friends, and I enjoyed the food, and I also enjoyed the culture. It's funny because I was born and raised in Morocco, and in Morocco, when I was a kid, they had these movie theaters that are literally just Indian movies. And so it was actually Indian and Kung Fu movies. So you would go, you watch a movie, that is an Indian language, and then you watch a Chinese, kung fu movie.
Yeah,
That's all there is.
cool.
So you walk up like singing, you don't even know what you're saying, and you walk up, coming out of there. So culturally, I've always been, and I still actually watch sometimes, Bollywood movies or listen to their music, and it's, I'm again, just like you, I love culture. I love to learn about other folks, and they're just, culture is beautiful. It's amazing. My first job was in the Epcot Center in Florida, which was World Showcase, which is a cultural experience, an international cultural experience with different cultures, being in one place. We had Germans, we had Moroccans, we had French, we had the British, or the English rather. We had the Japanese, the Chinese. So we had Italians, and we had a whole bunch of folks that were all mixed in there. And it was great to actually live in the same place, same apartment. We shared the same. We had roommates from different parts of the world. So it's beautiful. But this also leads to the discussion that when we're young, this was obviously I was like literally 20, and at that age you're still developing your personality, and in your case, one of the ways to discover yourself was like, let's get high. I mean, why not, right? And it's a good thing. I mean, I guess for some people to get high. I mean, now there is definitely a lot of science behind CBD and hemp and the benefits of it. But you did it the raw way, which is the traditional way. You get smoked, and basically you're like up there. Now it's funny because I've been to Amsterdam. Now, if you go to Amsterdam, well, that's like heaven for anyone who wants to get high. I mean, and they have these little stores that you can have coffee and cake and get like wasted somehow and just walk out like a zombie, right? you'll, be,
Yeah.
you'll be like in the cloud. I don't know, but it's an interesting thing. But it is a way of sometimes dealing with life and just trying to find a higher place. But you're right. That stuff, you're stoned basically. You're not really 100% there.
And this is like such a cool point, and I want to jump in here because I love
please.
this conversation. There's a big difference between getting high and getting stoned. When you're stoned, you're like that zombie who's like, turn on the TV, I can't even move my arm. When you take that micro dose of weed, and I know this is super hard for people to do, especially for weak smokers, because it's like, like to just take that tiny bit, and it really pushes you into your higher self and into your creativity. And you can create music, you can create art, you can go in the forest and enjoy, and you get active from it. And it brings you energy. I say, like, smoke that small amount of weed and enjoy it and really expand from it. But when you smoke that whole joint and you just get stoned and you can't move anymore, you overdid it. It's the same with alcohol. It's the same with cigarettes. It's the same with anything. It's with sugar, with salt, with coffee. I mean, the list is so long. When you overdo it and you just end up in that moment when you're just like this zombie who's stoned, sure, that might be fun someday too, but you're just escaping from reality. You're escaping from who you truly are, from your real identity. And so I think that's the biggest issue with weed, is that people don't understand the difference between, taking one puff, maybe two, and feeling that high and feeling that you're still completely in control, versus, oh, yeah, I got the big pipe out and I got hammered and I'm just lying around and nothing happens in my life.
Well, it's funny. The keyword stone, like, I mean, think about a big stone and you just like anchored to the ground. You're really not moving. You're not high. I mean, it's like a contrast. I'm high, I'm stoned. I mean, you can't be high and stoned at the same time.
No, you can't.
I mean, physically, I'm talking just as
you might be high for the first 15 minutes and you really enjoy it, but then you end up stoned because you overdid it.
Well, I love that. So extremism in absorption of anything products, whether to your point, sugar, coffee, food. I mean, anything can be bad. You got to have moderate stuff. And again, listen, weed, like I said, it's become a science now. I mean, there's a whole, multiple products that are great for us, and it actually works with our cannabinoids, system and all the stuff, that
amazing science.
It is, but for the most part, it was done to make you chill and just like. Now, the good news is, I have to say, people that do weed, they're not really aggressive. They're just the coolest people to be around.
I know, I love that.
They're just chill, right? They're not gonna go, feisty on you, right? And in a way, but health wise, it's not. And again, if you're seeking that higher being, your higher self, that's not gonna. You get high, but you're not getting higher. I think that's the key. In your case, you were not fulfilled by this, and a lot of youth, experiment with drugs and this and the other and weed and all, and unfortunately, they just never find themselves. As a matter of fact, it doesn't matter if I've had so many shows about addiction, and everybody had a similar experience where they get to a point, it's like, what the hell, what's going on here? It's not going anywhere. I'm not doing it, and I'm not successful. I'm not fulfilling. Health wise, I'm not doing good. Relation wise, I'm not doing good. So it's not really a constructive way of living, and eventually you're not. In your case, you love to travel, so you did go to India and you fell in love with India and the culture. And yoga is, I've had also a lot of shows with yogis and different, Ayurveda, Reiki, all the stuff we've done a few shows about these ancient or mainly Indian source type of I guess concepts, and they all have a very high level of spirituality attached to them. Now
Yeah.
yoga is really getting deep, in a concentration mode, meditation. And actually, we had shows about meditation. And I know you use strategic stuff such as meditation and things, and we can talk about that further. And, so you discovered that. And guess what? You were there, for 20 years, in the culture. And here's the thing, it's amazing because, you've done this already. You've left your own, I guess, country of birth. I'm here the same way. Like, we made that leap. Not everybody is willing to do that, but we did it. And for different reasons, we did it. And again, to fulfill our destiny, if you want to call it
Yeah.
that way. And a lot of people watching and listening, they might have the same desire to actually do this. And you know what? The one thing that, as you and I mentioned briefly, is that fear, for status. You want to get rid of the fear. If you really want it bad, you go after it, period and out, and you will discover your way no matter what. And sometimes, look at you. I mean, you've made the transition, forward and then backwards, and then you move to Mexico. And I guarantee you, I have another friend who's doing exactly that. He's just traveling the world and enjoying life. Here's different ways that fulfill people. And if that is what it takes, then you do it. Now, let's talk about your experience with the yoga. So you started with yoga, and then you started, obviously, you had to survive. You have to do work and everything else. You have a family to raise, and you stayed there. But then what made you get into the live coaching? I mean, is that something that I just got it from you that you started recently, or that's something that you started when you were in India already? Before
Oh,
you even
it's a funny thing because, when I look back on my life, I've been coaching people since I'm 15. That's been always my passion. People would always come to me and be like, oh my God, it's so amazing to talk these things through with you. And it's so helpful. But it's really been over the last couple of years that I said, like, why am I just doing this on the side? Why am I just doing this with my friends? Why am I not committing myself 100% to show up as a life coach? Right. And so that was another scary one because I was like, I don't know. Then I have to ask for money. Then I have to show up differently. Then it becomes weird, right? Is it then still spiritual if I ask for money? I'm so confused, And so I had all these fears and insecurities around it. And when I had my first client who paid me some real money for my coaching, and they started getting deeper results than anyone else I had coached before, I was convinced. I was like, oh my God. It's just that simple. It's just to have that exchange, to have someone who would show up because they have made an investment in themselves and they are serious about it. And they say like, yes, I'll pay you a couple $1,000 and I'll expect something back. And it suddenly became serious for me, right? Because I had to show up in a whole nother level. My level of education increased exponentially. And I really wanted to show up at a higher level every single day for my clients and give them more and allow them to grow even further. And so I've been on this crazy trajectory of the last 3 years of really diving deeper and deeper into how can I serve more? How can I show up more prepared, more educated, and really give my clients more value on every session?
Well, so thank you. I mean, that's a big point right there, because I love what you said. You started, I mean, you kind of felt that you were doing coaching and giving advice since early days. And a lot of us do that. Like, we always feel like we're, especially if you have a younger person, you're always big brother, right? You want to tell them what's up. And sometimes even someone older, or you meet, like, you try to give them advice. But it's one thing to give free advice and to expect, to be compensated on it, at a higher level, because now you have accountability and you want to deliver results, because no one's going to pay you and expect, just, nothing to change. You want to make sure that you drive results with them and ultimately make an impact in their life. And when they see that value, they see that they get what they are paid and that they're paid for more. That's when, and then that's fulfilling for you. And this is actually the same for all coaches out there. It doesn't matter, business, life coach, spiritual coach. It's always there. I mean, and by the way, all business, when you give a service that you are paid for, you want to do the best that you can in it, and so you can get that result, ultimately to the clients, right? But it's a different level. But you're right. I mean, we all do some level of coaching, and mentorship, with our own immediate friends, family. But when you expand it to the public, it's a different level, and it's a different fulfilling thing, right? So, but before, I want to continue in this, but I want to go to the core of what you coach on. I mean, you started with yoga and you discovered spirituality. You discovered yourself, the higher, personal. I mean, we talked about high performance, life coach and the spirituality seeker. Now for our audiences, this word spirituality can be very misconstrued with religion. And because sometimes they're one and the same, sometimes they're not. And I don't think they're the same. They're two different levels, And so in your research, in your journey, what would you define spirituality to our audiences with?
Yeah, and I want to start from the point of religion, right? Sure. Religion has been a tool for thousands of years on this planet for us as human beings, making sense of things which we couldn't put anywhere else, right? So there's one group who said, oh, we got this great temple over here. You just come and you pray with us. And when you do these prayers and you do it 5 times a day and you do it in this very specific fashion, you can connect deeper with your spirit. And then we give you all the answers, and then you just give us a little money so we can build another temple and tell more people. And religion was a great business, and it worked. And people were like, the reason people joined religion is because they have some sense in themselves. And it's this connection to soul. It's this connection to spirit. And they don't know where to put it. And they ask their parents, and their parents just shrug their shoulders and go like, I have no clue. I used to go to church and I used to pray, and that kind of helped me with these kinds of things, and it's the big things. It's like when someone you truly love passes and suddenly it's not there anymore. It's when you start growing up and you transition from being a child into being an adult. All these kinds of big transitionary moments are kind of monopolized by religion, right? We say you get married in the church, we do the funeral service, we do, like when you feel really guilty or feel a lot of shame, you go to confession and you let go of these things. So religion just kind of created a tool to serve people in this need. And so that's why it was a good business, right? Any business that serves a need expands, and you can look at around the world why religion has so many followers. For me, spirituality is something very different. For me, spirituality is a little bit like we have that spiritual identity in ourselves. Every single one of us has this. Every baby that is born on this planet has it. Every person who's 80, 90, 100 years old has the spiritual connection. And the way how I always like to express it is, it's really not for us as human beings going out into the world trying to find spirituality and have a spiritual experience, but we're really spiritual beings coming on this planet, taking on a human body and having a human experience, and having to deal with, oh my God, I need to eat. I need to go to the bathroom. I have sexual urges. I feel like, like I have emotions. I have these things I need to figure out. I need to make money. That's human experience. But at our core, every single one of us is a spiritual being. And how deeply you're connected to that essence in yourself, that is really what spirituality means. Spiritual lifestyle, spiritual path, spiritual pursuit has nothing to do with going out there and finding the guru who tells you what to do, or finding that new religion which gives you even a better tool on how to connect with your own spirituality. But it's all about like closing your eyes, feeling deep inside and feeling that core essence inside of you, which allows you to be like, oh my God, it's all there. I'm that deeply connected to source energy. And you can call that Allah, you can call that God, you can say, yeah, there's nothing, there's just the universe. It all works. It doesn't make a difference. We are all connected at that deep, essential spiritual level. So for me, that's true spirituality.
So thank you. And actually you're touching on something that I think everybody, religious or not, will probably agree on. The fact is, this, you said, we have the spirit, our own spirit that kind of manifests into this body or avatar. I refer to it as an avatar that operates in this realm or world that is material, right? But in all beliefs systems, we have this discussion about the soul. I mean, sometimes, I mean, it's referred to as spirit or soul. Now the soul is this being that no one understands in this planet. I mean, really, like what it is. We know it's at least we try to interpret it as a form of energy that, as you stated, connected to the creation or to the universe. And then at this junction here, depends on your belief, you would determine if this is this name or this denomination or whatever the case may be. But the fact is, everybody knows deep inside that we're supposed to be good, we're supposed to be spiritual, we're supposed to be connected, we're supposed to care. And anyone that gets to the point of that level of spirituality, regardless of their denomination and religion, it's someone that is actually finding a way that is better in terms of living. These are the folks that typically do not do bad things. They're typically at a higher standard in humanity. And again, it is fascinating because, like, here you and I, two different religions, literally, in terms of our practices. But yet, there's the connection that is going to the source. And the source is that I don't think we will disagree on it, is that we all feel connected to this world. We all hope and thrive for a better world, for a better being, for being a better state of mind, I would say, and existence, right? And I guarantee people are watching from whatever walks of life in different groups, as you said, besides the defined religious, realms that we have, we all have this level of deep seeking. And I think that's the thing. Many are not fulfilled with what they know and how they know it. And regardless of where they wind up, in terms, like you said it, I mean, you didn't feel that you were fulfilled at a young age, and you discovered, this through yoga because it allowed you to get to that higher plane, if you want to call it, in terms of understanding and being in a Zen moment. I mean, it's just meditation is a big deal, in the realm of spirituality, and meditation is really, even in the religious aspect, people meditate when they pray, right? So it's the same thing. Now, this is not a religious show, folks, so we're not going into that, but it's just the understanding the spirituality versus, the actual concept as a whole of religion, and the concept of just the source, or as the Greeks, used to call it, the ghost in the machine, which is the spirit that's running, and frankly, like, we all have that. That's the next level of us. I mean, it's really the true, I believe personally, this is just me, I believe that the true us is our soul, which doesn't end. It just transits from one world to the other. And then basically, based on our presence in this particular world, we have certain tasks to perform, and mainly being good and being, I guess, closer to the to our purpose of being here. You know what I mean? So that's a whole different thing. Now, when you coach people to find their higher self or the higher being, I mean, and by the way, higher being here is just your best position of existing, being the best person that people can actually
best version of yourself.
Exactly. And that's actually, we just want to be clear, because this is, higher being, because for some folks maybe like seeking God. This is, which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with that.
Same thing in the end. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, being you, and if you can get to that highest level, then you'll be closer, to the universe, and the connection with everything that is being created in this universe. So now, you use techniques and strategies to get people from nothing to the higher potential level. what does that experience look like? Because you've been through it yourself. So take us through this journey of like me coming in completely not clear about life, not sure, completely lost in this world, and getting into this realm where I can start like being more zen, and
Yeah.
in a good place.
Yeah. And, I want to start with a little story around that. They've done this research on a machine, where they could measure how your energy expands, right? And so they did these different things when you're feeling angry, how your energy is very small and very limited. And when you feel into your love and your compassion, your energy expands, right? And it was much bigger. And then they found, because they wanted to find out what is the thing which expands you the most, which is really what is the top thing. And they were actually thinking it would be love and compassion, right? Because like, what can there be greater than feeling in love and compassion for other human beings, for yourself? But they found out that when someone truly feels authentic and feels real and feels that they can express their passion and their purpose, and to really authentically connect to who you are as a human being, not who I am, right? But who you are at your core. That's when the energy was the most expanded and was 10 times higher than love and compassion. So for me, this is really the starting point when I work with any one of my clients, is to guide them to find out for themselves, what is their real core purpose? What is the real thing? And I still remember this for myself. I must have been 8 or 9. And I still remember the place I was in when I asked my mother. And, up to that point, my mother was this all-knowing, she had all the answers for everything always. And so I was like, oh, I need to figure shit out. I'll go ask my mom. And so I was like, hey, I got a question. And she's like, oh yeah, what is it? And I was like, what's the purpose of life? And she goes like, and I was like, what's the answer? And she's like, this is something you need to figure out yourself. And I'm like, what? You don't have the answer for me? I was so ready with my 8-year-old self to just move to the next thing and be like, oh, okay, now I know the purpose. I can just do that. And then that was something which impacted me at such a core level, to not have someone in my life who could help me figure this out. And so for me, for you, if you would come to me and say like, let's do a first session, what I always focus on is to allow people to find clarity and to guide them a little bit closer to their own purpose. And that's different for every single person I ever worked with. For someone, it might be going out in the world and serving people. For someone else, is figuring out their relationship. For someone else, is to become a good father for their children. Like everybody has like a different core purpose. And the moment as we're coming closer to exploring that, people start becoming just that little bit more real, that little bit more authentic. And that is something we all crave so much in today's world. When you scroll through social media and someone is all fake and giving you like some advertisement pitch or whatever, you're like, whatever, you just keep scrolling. But when you meet someone who is authentically themselves, even if you disagree with their beliefs or how they show up or how they dress or what they think about politics or whatever it is, but if they're truly authentic in their being, you're attracted to that because you want to know more. And you're like, hey, that's an interesting person. That's someone I want to have as a friend because that's an authentic person. And so for me, really, all the work I do comes around as, what does it truly take for you to just become that little bit more authentic and that little bit more real and that little bit more your true self? Because when you hit that point and you show up in the world in your true identity, and now it gets interesting because then it comes back to that soul spirit thing, right? Because that's what truly expresses itself. Because your true identity has nothing to do with how much hair you have on your head or, if you're a man or a woman, or the color of your skin, or what your sexual orientation is. Those are all just the superficial things, right? But your true core identity, your true authentic self. And that's the point where you can start connecting with what gives you passion, what allows you to feel purpose, why you want to jump out of bed at 6 a.m. and get to your work and get into your relationship and start creating prosperity in your life so you can share it with others, because you truly connect to who you truly are. And that's really all it is.
Thank you. And you touch on energy, and again, one of the key things that sometimes people cannot comprehend is that we are an energy form. I mean, everything in this universe, I mean, we're talking science and physics, everything is electrons and protons and, just atomic level and subatomic, and it's all energy related stuff. So there is that equation in life. And you're right, when you start looking beyond this, the facade and whatever our avatars look like, and even our, I guess, inclinations in life, whatever those may be, at the end, we have that. And when you feel that energy, and energy can get literally very easily perceived by people, because you get around the room and some people, they just like attract you with their energy. Some people, they just push you away with their energy. It's like frequencies and vibing, going on at all once. Now, again, this is probably one of those shows that's going to get a little bit, hairy, because it's sometimes not really acceptable in the concept of how we see things, because we perceive everything in the material spirit, in material realm, but not in spiritual or energy, level. But it's all one. All those things. We have an actual energy, source. That soul that we don't understand what it is fueled, at a certain point. We don't know exactly what that is, but we can discover it. We can be that person. We can be that individual. And by the way, this does not, again, cross over whatever your religious perspectives are. You can still operate within the same thing, and the energy is still going to be there. It's just how you're going to channel it. And then to your point, when you get that authentic yourself, and I think everybody out there is looking for that authenticity in themselves. The problem is sometimes we don't know how to elevate to that level. And when you get to that level, you start seeing the world differently. You're not at the same, level as everybody else. And it's not about being in levels. It's just that you're at a higher, I guess, plane yourself. You're just like, you analyze things with more, I guess, wisdom. You're not rushed into, decisions. You don't do stuff. And I love what you said. You can disagree with people, but, you don't have to go crazy with them, because you are already at a different point of your existence that, okay, maybe they need some guidance. Maybe, I just need to give them peace and stay away from them. You become the different person, as opposed to like, oh, let's just clash and do stuff, which a lot of us do, unfortunately. And we get into everybody's face and, we hurt each other and things like that. So there is a level where it becomes a much better, I use the word Zen. I mean, you are more cool, calm, and collected individual at that rate. So you're definitely getting people to do that. So in your strategy, you work with them to identify and highlight this particular presence within them, and then finally find that real them, right? And so you work with various people. I'm assuming if someone comes from a different, I guess, religion, let's say, because that's sometimes, again, these things, they kind of get confused a little bit. They come from a different belief, and they might use your services, or they might say, well, you are going to attract us into your own views of stuff, and maybe that's going to change my religious, realm. What would you say to people, to really make them feel that this is not the religious aspect? You're not trying to convert them. You're trying to get them to be a better person, and regardless of what their belief is. What would you say to those people, just to clear?
For me, for example, sorry, you weren't done.
No. I said that's just a big element that people probably would be questioning watching this show.
Yeah. Well, out of all my clients I'm working with right now, only one is actually, in the same religion everybody else is, there's Christians, there's Muslims, there's people who are atheists. And for me, it's never about that. I always bring them back to, hey, how do you feel when you go to church and when you go pray? and they say, oh my God, I feel so amazing. I feel connected with community. And then we got into, so why are you not going on Sunday? And they're like, oh, maybe I should
Oh,
go on Sunday, right? And so it's a tool. It's a tool that serves you. And if you enjoy how that tool serves you, I will actually be the one pushing you to go and do that, because it gets you that one little bit closer to your authentic self and to your real identity. And if it doesn't serve you, you need to decide what you want to do, right? And so for me, I love working with spiritual people, and I love working with religious people, because they have already a concept of wanting something which is out there. And they've been using it through their belief in Allah or their Christian identity or whatever it is. But I love connecting with people like that, because I really feel ultimately, we can all either be amazing human beings or idiots. It has nothing to do with our religious identity and our religious beliefs, but it has everything to do with who we are at our core, right? And how we choose to show up in the world. So for me, honestly, if someone comes to me and says, hey, I'm nervous around, will you try to convert me? I never once talked about my religious beliefs in a coaching session. And I have no interest in starting to do that, because it has nothing, over the last 5 years, I moved so far away from religion, and I have nothing even to do. When people call me a Sikh today, I'm kind of like, I don't know, I don't even know if I want to be identified as religious, because it's so limiting. It's so put in a box. For me, I want to connect with everybody. I want to go to churches, to synagogues, to mosques. I want to connect with beautiful people. And you can find beautiful people in a mosque, same way as you can find beautiful people at a rave. And it really has nothing to do with, what your stamp or your label is, because the core is what makes a person.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate your answer. I mean, it's pretty clear, and I love what you said about the idea that you're open to everyone. It's not a purpose to deviate people from their core beliefs, rather than to get them to be better at whatever they are and just elevate themselves. And you know what? That's a big deal, because I do believe that there is two types of people on this planet. I don't judge people for who they are, their religion, all the stuff. I have my own belief in terms of the religion aspect of it and how I operate. But within that same, I do believe that there's good people and there's bad people. Now, whatever their denominations, their, I guess, penchant, as they say, or their, inclinations, that's theirs. But the fact is, even in one particular religion, you're going to have people that are good or bad. And really, even in the realm of creation, we believe in there's a good and the evil, right? And so you're either going to fall into one of these two categories. At least that's my personal opinion about things. So I don't judge people for key point, as you said, like how they look, what they look, like what they believe in. Rather, are they a good person? Are they a bad person? Are they going to hurt people? Are they going to be more loving and fulfilling?
And really, what are the actions, right? Like, how do they show up in the world?
That's it.
And that's what counts. And that's what counts for all of us. How do you show up in the world? What do you do to support other human beings? How do you show up for nature? How do you show up for the environment? Like, what are the actions you're taking? Don't hide behind, oh, I'm this religious, this, that, right? That's all meaningless if you cannot transcend that and really, through your actions, show how you care for humanity as a whole.
Well, actions speak louder than words, right? I mean, it's just, you got to talk the talk, walk the walk. And really, that's really what it is. And if you elevate yourself, you will find yourself in the positive realm, and therefore your actions will behave in that such way. And if you're in the negative side, you will behave in such a way, and you're going to hurt people, and you're going to be not very appealing, and so on and so forth. So we have, I mean, in our belief, for example, we have two afterlives choices. We can even be, and again, this is, some people would disagree, like, what the hell are you talking about? Well, we have a great place, that we might be going to, or a bad place based on our actions now. So at least that's one of the beliefs, right? But the concept is we decide where we go. We
Yeah.
have free will. We have the freedom of choice of how we can live our lives and where we can wind up. And whether that's by design in terms of, picking our religious, realm, or just by behaving correctly. Now, everybody, is inclined to do good. I think in our core, we're supposed to be good. But unfortunately, there's so much negative energy that drives people into like doing bad and being very hurtful and, I don't know, killing and destroying and stuff. But that's not really the true nature of where we're supposed to be. That's just the evil energy or the negative energy that's actually out there that we actually incline to. It's like a
And
dish.
it's usually a way to compensate for something. It's for compensate for something that is missing. And my favorite example is always to look at little kids. If you have
Oh, love
100
it.
little kids, there is no evil in there. You might have the one or two which are kind of, taking the stick and they want to hit the puppy over the head with it. But 98 of them want to cuddle that puppy and be kind and give it some water and feed it and carry it around. And then when you look at those two who wanted to hurt the puppy, you look at their home situation, you look at how they grew up for those first 5 years of their life, and there's something fucked up in there. And there's some trauma in there, which those poor little two souls are trying to process through those evil, in parentheses, actions. But when you truly can connect, and that's what I again love about the example of children, when you truly can connect with those two souls and these two little tiny human beings, and you give them love and care and allow them to feel safe and secure, guess what? They're going to want to be kind and give that same energy back to the world. And so my strong belief is there's truly no inherent evil in the world, and there is no bad people, but there's people who got hurt so deeply and traumatized so profoundly in their early childhood or even in their teenage or young adult years that they hardened to such a deep level where they're like, screw it, I can go steal and kill and cheat and be nasty and say nasty things which make other people cringe and cry and suffer. And I don't feel anything. I couldn't care less about it because I got hurt on such a deeper level. That's kind of the concept I'm going with. Go ahead.
No, I love it. And you said actually better even than I said, is the idea there's no bad people. It's just where the circumstances and they drive from their information that drives what their behavior. And I love the example of children because children are innocent by default. They have not been corrupted yet by the world, events, and therefore they behave in a natural state. As opposed to as we start growing, we get all these influences and therefore we start packing, one way or the other. And that's when our behavior becomes good or bad. So I love that. Now I love what you do in terms of getting people to that level, because I think ultimately if someone gets to that elevated state, then they can become better and impact the environment differently. They'll have a better, outcome in their society. They'll have a better reach. They'll have a better, just influence in general in everywhere, whether at work, at family, friends, in society, in the world. I mean, it's just that level. And when you get there, that's great. So it is your job is to get people from the raw level and get them into this and basically get them to a level where they can just thrive. Now, what is that time frame looks like? If you start with someone, how long does it take for someone to actually get to a point where it's like they're ready to be on their own and carry on this torch of being beautiful?
Yeah, I mean, really what I've found is that in one session, which I always offer my first session for free because I don't want anyone to have this feeling like, oh my God, I don't have money. I can't work with this guy. But what I found with people who I just work one time with, and what I do always in the first session is I bring them to the point of clarity, to what they really want, what their real path is, what their real passion is. There's already so much value in just showing up for yourself by saying, oh my God, this dude with a turban is offering me an hour of his time for free. And I'm making the step in that direction, where I show up for myself. And I've been on over 50 podcasts. I make this offer every single time, where I say, like, if you want to know more, just contact me. I'll give you an hour of my time for free. Take a wild guess on how many people have taken me up on this.
None?
Exactly. Nobody has taken me up on taking that step towards themselves. Now, let that sink in. I mean, like, seriously? You have an opportunity. It's right in front of you. You don't even have to commit your own money, because I'm showing up. I'm investing myself. I'm investing my time. All you have to do is come with an open mind and say, okay, what is it? What can I get out of this? And people don't take this opportunity. And it blows my mind every single time. So that's the first step. Unless you can do that for yourself, why would you even consider hiring anyone, who can help you over a longer time period? But when I have people who actually dare to come on a call with me, dare to dive deep, dare to explore themselves, that's people I can work with, because I know they've already taken the first step. And then the second step is, what I usually do is I work with people on a weekly basis over 4 months, because what I found, that's kind of like 3 to 4 months is kind of the minimum for us human beings, what we need to condition a new behavior. Because, we go into the nitty gritty of, as soon as we're clear on what do you want, what's your purpose, what's your passion, then it comes to, how do you have to align your actions with that? What are the things you need to do more of, and what do you need to do less of? And you choose that. I'm not coming in and telling you need to meditate for 6 hours a day, and then you need to do social service for another 6, and you need to, do blah, blah, blah. It really comes down to, what can you do to get yourself closer to yourself? And what are the habits and patterns which you want to do less of, because they take you away from yourself? And so having these weekly check-ins is so powerful, because it's a little bit like a New Year's resolution on crack, right? Because we all have had those New Year's resolution where we're like, we're going to go running every day. We're going to go to the gym. Actually, gym owners build their yearly budget on and around New Year's resolutions, because they know on January 2nd, they get that huge spike in signups. They sign up 3 times the capacity of people they can actually handle in their gym, because they know after 2 weeks, 50% have already dropped out. And after 4 weeks, it's at 93% of people who have dropped out. And that's the only way how gyms survive, why they can offer these super low rates for memberships, right? Because they know that many people will drop out. So what happens in the coaching process is, you don't get to drop out. You're staying accountable to your own goals, because we have that weekly check-in. So it never gets to the point where you're like, shit, this is the point where I want to give up. I cannot do this. I cannot quit smoking. I cannot get into exercise. I cannot get into healthy eating. I cannot show up for my business the way I know I have to show up for my business. And so through this consistency, people actually see some lasting change. And then after a period of 3 to 4 months, they have a base which they can then take forward and they can continue with, and it becomes part of their identity and of themselves.
Well, so Amrit, I know we have a hard stop, but I do have one question. What does your client looks like? Like, who can benefit from your services?
Well, I have 2 different things I do. One is I work one-on-one with people where I just take a few selected clients, because, my time is limited. I can only work with so many people. So I really want to leave it open to anyone who says, like, I want to work on that. I'm doing this new thing I'm super excited about, where I very specifically work with men who are struggling in their marriages, because I saw a lot of my clients that came to me were that type of clients. I wanted to create a product which was more fine-tuned, more niche, more specific. And so what I'm doing there is I work with men. They're usually in their 40s, 50s. They've been married for a long time. They're loving husbands. They have kids, but they lose that connection with their wives. The gap has been widening over years and years and years, and they're like, I don't know. I'm successful in my job. I have these amazing kids. I'm taking good care of my health, but the one freaking thing I can't figure out is how to get along with my wife. And this is the person I love. This is the person I care for. And so I give them tools very specifically designed for that, like what can you do? How can you show up? How can you create emotional intimacy again in your relationship? How can you improve your sex life? And how can you get back to that point where even though you're 20 years into your marriage can be a better marriage after 20 years than it was after 2 years. And so I have a lot of passion for that. So I have a very specific program for that. So those are the types of people I work with and support.
Well, thank you. And that's pretty much a lot. And I love what now you're adding this value of working with men specifically, how to enhance their relationships. I've had multiple shows about relationships and resilient relationships with Dr. Heim and Dr. Colin Heim. That was one recent. We had a few with Dr. Liam Naden. He's an author. He does a lot of the work, on the relationships. And it's always amazing because it is big, of our society. There's a lot of problems and we get crazy. So the more we can get help, that's appealing. So Amrit, I know we've just about the hour here, and I know we're really tight in time. But I have absorbed a lot from today's discussion, and I know, just we can spend hours to talk about this. Is fascinating stuff, especially when we're, talking an elevated level in a discussion and beyond, borders and limitations. Literally here, it makes it a lot different. So people can reach out to you. And you can work remotely with them, I'm assuming, right? So it's not necessarily...
all my work is remote. I do everything over Zoom because it works so great. Like look at us. It's like we're sitting together, energetically. We're so connected in this moment. And this is just how my work works. And I love that about Zoom. It's just an amazing tool.
Well, there you go. So, folks, if you're really looking to change, to get a different perspective... And by the way, folks, what Amrit said about the idea of how many people took advantage of a free session. It's a very common thing that I come across. Many of my guests literally, and super top, coaches in all levels, they offer these consultations, and many people don't take advantage of it. If it's free, it's for me. We say it all the time. It's an opportunity to discuss. There's nothing to lose. If anything, you'll gain, because at least you'll learn something of that hour. Think about it as a seminar, a webinar, whatever you want to call it, to get information. People pay to get these places, and sometimes you get this free opportunity. Why not take it? And if it goes beyond, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. It's because not every client is also suitable. So at the end of the day, you just have to figure out what it is. You might just get your answers, in that first session, and it's done. So again, take advantage.
And maybe I should just charge $500 for this session, and I would get a better impact, because people would actually be like, oh my God, I paid $500. So now it's really worth something to me. But
you hit it on, because a lot of people sometimes, I've heard this before, like, well, nothing is free. What's the catch? Folks, this is like when you go to a lawyer, right? They charge you in the first consultation. No, they give you a free consultation so you can see your options. This is the same thing. If it's coaching, you want to at least get stuff. I've had offers on books. I've had offers on discounts. I've had offers on free sessions. And take advantage, folks, of it. There's nothing wrong with it. If you really think you can use the service, inquire. That's why, again, this is just me, because I'm always fascinated about the idea, like, people are missing opportunities when they might need it. Now, if you don't need it and you feel that got this, that's all good. Obviously not. But if you think this is going to be helping you in one way, shape, I mean, sometimes you might need multiple opinions. So you can do a consultation here, you can get another consultation there, you can have a therapist, whatever, and then identify all that. Maybe you can use them all, maybe you can use none. But do it. So again, I just wanted to highlight that because that's, I think it's an interesting. It comes along very often where I hear the same thing. I'm giving free and I'm not getting anything. And that I think stems from like people don't appreciate free because I think it's less value, but that's not true. This is, like you said, your time is more valuable than any money in the world, and so that's important. Anyways, I don't want to get further in that, but so Amrit, I mean, I really enjoyed our discussion today. I had so much fun here, and we had a very highly spiritual discussion in a way, with some fun in it, and definitely, folks, this is an important piece of our lives. If you think that there's an opportunity here to reach out, please do so. I will have the link of where you can reach out to Amrit, in the description of the show. I think it's Marriage Reconnections Roadmap. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the one specifically for the man. And so that's why I've been putting a lot of energy in there. But otherwise, just reach out to me on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok. I love doing TikTok. That's like one of my little fun projects. And so just send me a message and just inquire and just start a conversation. And honestly, you don't want the session for free. You can also send me $500. I'll not say no. So whatever you want.
All right. Thank you. Well, listen, I know you have places to be and people to see right now. So I'm ready, thank you so much for being with us today. It's
Well,
been
thanks
great.
for having me.
Oh, just one thing before you leave us. If you can give us just one or two words of wisdom before we part, that's just my tradition on the show.
Be yourself and have fun with it.
Sweet, simple. I love it. All right. Well, Amrit, thank you so much. You have a great one, folks, I hope you've enjoyed the show and you've picked up a few things here that can help you in your life. And that's all there is. I'm Hurricane H. We'll be talking soon. New day, new show, new topic, and new guest. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks for having me, Hurricane. Bye.
You're welcome.